Hello guys, welcome back. We got one for you today. So what we have is another L5P. Customer wants to upgrade his engine oil pan and his filtration system. So I'm gonna get you off my ugly mug here, flip it around. You can see some real pretty stuff. Not me, I'm not that pretty, but this stuff is, so hold on. So sitting right here, we have a 22 L5P. She has 41,000 miles. Customer bought this with 4,000 miles on it, and we're going to dig into it. So as you heard me say in the first part, we're going to be doing the Banks engine oil pan. Again, you got to love these guys. The product is absolutely awesome. Everything comes in the kit. We got the pan. We've got the 3-bond. They even give you a gun to put your 3-bond on. Get rid of that long, stupid tranny bolt that makes no sense to me. You've got your drain plug. They are magnetic, as you can see. On the side of the pan, you'll see that. They even give you a plug for that. And then all of your fasteners to hold the pan on. Now, along with this system, we're also going to be doing the insane diesel oil filtration system. This is the X2. The progressive filter goes from 10 micron down to 1 micron. We're also going to be replacing the factory filter at the same time. Everything comes in the kit. This is a frame mount kit because we're also going to mount that down the frame next to the pan. You guys are going to see all of that once we get into it. So stick with me for a few, give you a few tips, tricks, whatever I find else on the way, give you a couple install shots, and then get this one wrapped up so that we can get it out to you guys and for your viewing pleasure, whatever. Anyway, stay tuned. All right, so before we get started on this, I do want to talk about one thing. Safety for your hands, in particular on this little segment here. My hands get a beating. You see I've got bruises in my nail beds, and that's always common. It's always there. And they're just beat up from years and years and years of doing this. Without proper safety gear, though, my hands would look way, way worse. So what we have here, we have just a basic rubber glove that you can wear, help protect your hands from exposure to chemicals, all that good stuff. Now, when we're getting into just doing straight up work where you don't need to have precision finger sensitivity, we also have these rubber gloves right here, which are quite a bit thicker, a lot more durable. Of course, these ones you'll go through 2, 3, 4 pairs a day. These ones right here, you're going to be able to use these over and over and over, whether you're changing oil in your garage or changing tires, whatever. So the company that I like to work with is this company called Kaygo. They have all different kinds of sizes. They have all kinds of different other kinds of safety equipment other than just gloves. But head on over to their site at Kaygo, and you can get a discount by using the discount code that we're going to provide. And yeah, take care of your hands, guys. Okay, so first steps in getting the oil pan off, of course, is to drain the oil. It's been draining for about 40 minutes, so I'm going to put the plug back in it and start undoing the retaining clamps or retaining brackets for trans lines, get them out of the way. This cross member right here has to come out of the way, and then we'll start pulling all of the bolts for the oil pan itself. We're also going to have to drop down the front differential on the passenger side. Hope that that gives us enough room. If not, we'll have to drop it down off of the driver's side a little bit as well. Want to make sure that we get plenty of clearance so that when we go back together with the new pan, we don't wipe any of the silicone off of it as we're installing it. We want to make sure it stays where it's supposed to and gives us a good seal when we do finally bolt up the new pan. So I'm going to go ahead and get some stuff taken off, and we'll give you another video as we continue, so you can see pretty close to a step-by-step without me having to do like a time-lapse video. Okay, so we get this to this point right here. We've got these two bolts for the front differential, 2 nuts taken off, drop the front differential down. We've got the transmission lines disconnected from their mounting points. I do not disconnect from the side of the transmission. I don't believe that is necessary. I've been able to do it without it. And now you get all 26 bolts out of the engine oil pan. Now, in the kit, Banks gives a separator piece, looks like this, so that you can start breaking the seal of that pan. That's for the guy who is doing this, you know, in his garage, doesn't have a whole bunch of money tied up in tools, but wants to try and do this himself. I have these long little hammerable because they have a steel end on them. Let me show you another one. I've got a pack of 3. These ones are from Matco. Got a steel plate on there, so you can tap these with the hammer. We get a short straight, a short bendy, and a long straight. That's what's in there right now. Now you want to start working it by tapping on the end of it underneath the flange to start separating the pan, the lower pan from the upper pan. Once you get that started to work, then you can start actually pulling down on the pan with your hands. You got to use a pry bar, whatever. You got to make sure that you do not mess up the surface of your upper pan, because of course that is staying on the vehicle and the lower pan is going away, and you don't want to have any cracks, breaks, or severe scar marks on that. That's going to prevent anything from stealing. Now, talking about braking, if you are not careful, you can break that upper pan in this process. So you got to be slow and meticulous to get this pan off of here. Now, these are a one-time use. You will absolutely destroy this pan in the process of getting it off. So if you ever want to return back to stock, you need to go back to GM and buy another brand new pan. Anyway, I'm going to get that off there, and then we'll show you the sealing surface. Then we got to clean up and get ready for installation of the new pan. All right, so now that you get the oil pan off, you can see there's a ton of the 3 bond that they use from the factory holding that thing on there. Now you got to get that off, and you got to get that surface perfectly clean, free of all silicone. You can't just leave a layer on there. Otherwise, you'll end up with a leak at some point. So to do that, you can use razor blades. I have a longer handled razor blade right here, and I've got a shorter handled one right here. And you can also use a wire brush to help get the final bits off. I don't recommend using any kind of a rotary tool with a wire brush on it, or even a scuff pad, because you cannot damage or alter the surface of that lower oil pan. You need to keep it as intact as possible. So take your time, be very careful, get it totally clean, and then we can start going back together with the new pan, at which I will show you after I get this clean how clean you can actually get it without using any kind of a power tool. So stick with me. Alrighty, now that we got these surfaces clean, yes, you'll notice I have rags stuffed up in there. That's to keep oil from dripping on my head while I'm preparing the surface and getting it ready. So we've got the rags. Do not forget to take them out. You'll have a very, very bad day. From this point right here, though, before I put glue down on that new that engine oil pan and put it up there, I want to test fit to make sure that nothing is going to be in my way, like those transmission lines right there, so that I get a nice clean install. So if I have to end up putting like a bungee cord or something to hold those out of the way a little bit more, then so be it. Just make sure you dry fit it first, run through the process of how you are going to put that pan in before you put the pan in. And that will make everything so much easier for you. So there we go. I'm not gonna bore you with video of dry fitting the pan, but I'm gonna dry fit the pan, see if I need to adjust any of the trans lines, all that good stuff. And then I'll get the glue laid, show you a video there, and then I'll get the pan installed. Okay, so we've wiped down our surface with a brake cleaner, make sure it's perfectly clean. Now we're going to use the Banks supplied caulking gun and the 3 bond to put this on. So what you want to do is take your utility knife and cut that off. Be careful. Don't need nobody splitting their fingers open. Then you're going to screw it on just like this. Now, this is staggered so you can get a thicker or thinner bead on it. I cut mine about like that and put it into a 45. Then you're going to load it up into the caulking gun and start working it down. Now this stuff, again, it's pretty bulletproof, so you got to be pretty careful. And you don't want a really thick bead. You don't need a lot. You don't want a lot of squish out. Start putting it in inboard of the bolt holes all the way around. Try and maintain uniformity and consistency throughout your bead as you're laying this down. Don't go too fast. Don't go too slow. Make sure you try and keep it away from the edges a little bit, except for where you're coming around your bolt holes. And don't be afraid to stop and change positions. You can rotate your tube so that you get the right angle. Now, while you're doing this, keep in mind you got to mate this up. So what I do is just prior to laying down the 3-bond, I've already cleaned off the surface underneath the truck. Use some brake clean, leave some clean rags down there so that you can wipe it down again just before you pop this thing on there. Okay, we've already gone through our dry fit, so now this is ready to install. You kind of got to act quick. This stuff starts curing the second it hits oxygen, so I'll show you some more video after we get it on. Alrighty guys, so we got the lovely Banks oil pan installed, and now we're going to move on to installing the Insane Diesel oil filter bypass. Now what I've already done is pulled out the plug right here on the side of the oil filter housing. It is a 20mm by 1.5 thread pitch that takes 10mm Allen drive to get it out. I have installed the 20mm by 1.5 2AN6 fitting in, and then I installed the elbow on it just to keep that little bugger from dripping on me the whole time while I go through the rest of this install. So what I am doing now is getting ready to figure out exactly where I'm going to mount and drill for the oil filter bypass right here on the side of the frame rail, and then we'll get the frame tapped so that when I install it, I can Loctite the bolts in. That thing will never come loose unless you actually put a wrench on it, and then we'll start running our hoses. So stay tuned for a few more while I get that done. Alrighty guys, everything is buttoned up, cross members back in, oil pan is on. All of the trans cooler lines are fastened back down where they're supposed to go. And now we have the supply port in for the Insane Diesel oil filter bypass, and the return into the Banks oil pan coming down to a frame mount Insane oil filter. Nice clean install, short lines. Now I want to bring up a little point here on the feed line. So coming from your supply port into the end of the filter, it's important to keep that as short as possible. That fact is there because of the ability for the engine to not run at zero pressure for as least amount of time possible when we do a first startup. After the first startup, that line will remain full. So moving forward with further oil changes, you can not have to worry so much about a dry startup. A good point to make is if you can remote start the starter and crank this thing over for a few without actually starting the vehicle, it will help prime the system. Plus, we also did replace the factory filter, and we're going to be putting the Lorenzo oil in. So hold on just a second, and I'll show you and talk about the Lorenzo oil for just a second. Okay, so factory on this is 10 quarts. We added a 2-quart capacity upgrade with the Banks oil pan, and then the Insane Diesel oil filter bypass takes another quart. So there's 13 quarts. Now let's talk about the Lorenzo oil. It's a full synthetic heavy duty. and has a nano tungsten disulfide additive, which adheres to the metal surfaces and also provides a sacrificial layer to bearing surfaces and surfaces inside of the engine that, come in contact with other surfaces. So what this means is this will help protect all of the wear points inside of the engine, whether it's push rods, lifters, rockers, main bearings, rod bearings, cam bearings, all of that inside. This is going to help protect those systems and those surfaces from wear. It also, remember, also provides a sacrificial layer so that as wear is common with all engines, this will help cut down on wear of the materials that are in place, such as bearing material. Instead, it will provide itself its own sacrificial layer. So anyway, we are going to get 13 quarts poured back in this bad boy, and then we'll fire it up, make sure that we have no leaks, everything is good and honky-dory and satisfied, and we're going to call that a wrap for this one. And as this one is wrapping up, I do want to take this time to thank each and every one of you. The like, the share, the comment, all of that stuff. Now, I also want to go back and touch base really quick on all the stuff that I've been saying about the Cummins engines and the problems that we're finding with the 19 and newers. I also want to address with this truck. This thing also has a tick internal to the engine. It is taken to a dealer, and the dealer has said that that's normal. It isn't normal, guys. Don't ever be satisfied with an answer from a dealer of, oh, that ticking noise coming from your engine is normal. It's not normal. They just don't know what it is yet. I'm going to dig into this one a lot further and find out what we can find out about this ticking noise. At some point in the future, I will give you L5P owners an update. Right now, I don't have one, but I want to get this video out to you. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Again, like, comment, and share to everybody, because everybody needs to understand what they're getting into. Again, especially with Cummins, since I am a Cummins mechanic, a certified Cummins mechanic. I work on everything, of course, as you've seen, but specifically because of at the dealer, we deal with Cummins on a daily basis. We need everybody to understand what's going on with these engines and get it through to the manufacturers that we're not going to be satisfied with a do not fix at this point, or we don't know what it is, or it's common. None of that bull crap. They need to be held accountable for these actions. They need to be held accountable for building these vehicles specifically to fail so that they have to sell you another one in 3-4 years while you still have 3, 4, or 5 years left on your loan. Stupid, but whatever. We need to get this out to everybody. I need everybody to share this with their friends that have diesels and are sick and tired of the manufacturers pulling the crap that they're pulling. We need to get it out there, guys. So anyway, thanks again. We'll talk to you again later.